Thumbs up.
Thank you very much, Jill, for looking after our technology. Council, welcome back again. That was a short supper hour you had. We'll try to move on. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. Today's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting due to the declared emergency in order to keep everyone safe. We are taking the measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Although this is a virtual meeting, we'll attempt to record, stream live, and publish in accordance with Council's electronic recording meeting policy. Due to the pandemic and the requirements for social distancing to keep you safe, we are not able to allow the public to attend. Normally, by attending an open public meeting of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex, you are consenting to your image, voice, and/or comments being recorded and published. Anyone who's invited to speak may be recorded, and their voice, image, and/or comments will form part of the live stream. Today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Thank you, Council. Item number 2 on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any member of Council declaring a pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda. The agenda has been circulated and you've had time to peruse it. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing no hands, if someone would entertain a motion that the regular agenda of Council dated November 4th be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover? Jill, I don't see any hands here. I might be frozen up. I see Councillor McGill moved it. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Crothers seconded it. Any questions? I'll call the vote. Jill, you may have to keep your eyes on the hands.
All right.
All in favor?
Carried.
3. Carried. Thank you very much, Jill. We'll have to call our internet provider after the meeting. Delegations and the petitions. We have a meeting to consider the engineer's report, the Eichenberger Municipal Drain, Branch A and C. Council shall consider the report prepared by Spreets, dated May 12th, and shall give opportunity to any person who has signed the petition to withdraw from it, putting a withdrawal in writing, signing it, and filling it in with the clerk, and shall also give those owning lands within the area requiring drainage who have not signed the petition as an opportunity to do so. If the engineer staff, Jill, is before us, can they give an overview of the work required? Andrew, can you walk us through this?
I'm here tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, good. I'll see if I can get this improved here. Brandon, thank you very much. I just saw your image just popped up now, Brandon, so thank you very much. I've got you on my screen now, Brandon, so thank you for addressing us tonight and coming to us virtually. And please make yourself at home, and your presentation work, Council, is we're looking forward to it.
So tonight we're here for the Eichenberger Drain, 2 branches of it, branches A and a new branch C. So this drain is located on Switcher Drive, just west of Melbourne Road. It's an existing drain. It's a drain that our office has worked on in the past. It was there was some work done in 2011 by J.R. Spreet. As well, the original drain was constructed in 1980. This project was initiated by a couple of people. So there's a Jay Richards. He owns the farm on the corner of Switzer Drive and Melbourne Road. He has asked for an improved outlet for that portion. That farm has been recently tiled. I believe it was tiled this summer. He asked for an outlet for the corner. Bren Air Farms also requested the drain just be improved. We also have a request from the municipality to deal with some road drainage, and that initiated a branch C, which is shown there now. That was an existing drain through Bren Farms, which we are going to just replace and put some basins in to get the road ditch drained properly. So the branch A is the main drain we are replacing. It's an existing drain. It was constructed in 1980 by a report by J.P. McIntyre.
Brandon, do you have visuals?
Well, do you mean the copy of the plan?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to share any visuals with council, that's all.
Well, I'm unable to do so. So I'm coming here from my home, so I don't have my computer. You guys all have a copy of the report. Like, I'm operating off of my cell phone. So you all have a copy of the report. Hopefully it's in front of you. It makes it a little bit easier, but I will do the best I can. So the main drain, or branch A, starts at the top of the existing ditch of the Eichenberger drain, located in Mr. Eichenberger's property. It then is a new tile to be replaced through the nickel property. This is an 18-inch tile that will replace the existing 12-inch tile. That property is mostly woodlands. Once the drain goes through there, it ends up in Bren Farms, and it proceeds in the same direction up to J. Richards, goes up and across Switzer Drive. Branch C is just a branch off of that drain for Switzer Drive. And that's just an 8-inch tile.
Brandon, sorry, it's Jill. I'll just jump in. I can probably share my screen with you if that would be helpful. If you want to just tell me which page you're on in terms of looking at the report, I can probably flip to that.
You're best to go to the plan, Jill, which would be either a separate PDF or at the end of that one.
Yeah, I think it's at the end. Sorry.
Nope, no problem.
Oh, no. We
can just start at the top and we can go through it. So we went through already the authorization. We went through most of the drainage area. Some of the history. This project was started in November of last year. That's when we had the on-site meeting. Most of the owners were there. You know, the drain as it sits today does function. It is working fine, but it lacks the capacity which the owners are looking for, the upstream owners. We had that meeting. We then came back in February of this year with the preliminary meeting and the design. Everything was reviewed with the owner, all the owners present. And then this report was submitted in May. So it's been sitting for a little bit. So I'm kind of refreshed myself this afternoon with most of it. But, you know, it's approximately 947 meters of tile. It's all concrete tile. There's some clearing on the bottom property and Mr. Nichols' property. The former drainage superintendent in 2015 cleared that property from a request under maintenance, but there is some touch-up work that needs to be done because that was 5 years ago. The total cost of the project is approximately $105,000. When you're going through, you'll see there is 2 specials to Switzer Drive. Those are for the 2 road crossings. As well as you'll see there's a couple properties on this project which currently did not receive grants, so there's some agricultural status missing. That's notably the Marsh property, which I believe should be agricultural, but they need to clarify that with MPAC. And you'll see when you go to the schedule of allowances on page 7, any part of the existing drain has already been paid right away. Based on the province, we can't repay right away. It's already, the existing drain allowance has already been purchased. It was purchased in 1980. So it's already there and we're not adding to it. That's why there's 3 properties, Bren Farms, Mr. Nickel, and Eichenberger, that do not receive additional right away. You can go through the estimate and see the breakdown. But again, the total cost of the project is approximately $105,000. It is divided up by branch A and C. Branch A being the majority of that cost at $85,000. and is broken down accordingly. There's also a new maintenance schedule. And on this drawing, if you'll notice, we did do some work on the main drain, and that was to ensure that it's all one consistent report. That drain was done by us in 2011, and we've updated the benchmark so it's easier to do maintenance in the future. If anyone has any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon, very much. Council, please, I cannot, I'll go back to speaker view here. And Council, if you have any questions, Brandon is with us. Please ask him any questions if there are any. I don't see any hands. Brandon?
Councillor Vink has a question.
Oh,
Martin.
okay. Where's Councillor Vink on the screen? Martin, I can't see your hand. Martin, you're in the, no, I haven't got an image of you, Martin.
Okay, well, I can see myself.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, I see you now. I see you now, Martin.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, go ahead, Martin. Sorry about
Thank you,
that.
Mayor Allen. I'm sure the owner's going to ask this himself. I spoke with Mr. Nickel. And I do have a copy of the map. I asked Andrew Neely for a copy. In the Drainage Act, it says, I believe, that if a person doesn't have any benefit, he should not be liable for an adjustment to his assessment. He shouldn't be included in the assessment. And I took a walk in this property, and it's all bushland. Could you elaborate, Mr. Brandon, how Mr. Nickel gets any benefit out of this?
So this is kind of an assessment question. So, typically we talk about the technical aspects of the drain at that meeting. With regard to benefit on Mr. Nickel's property, he does get better control of surface and subsurface drainage. So one thing, when you look at this project, it's an existing drain. This drain was constructed in 1980, approximately 40 years ago. That property was woods then, and it still received benefit. Now, I can talk about the assessment further, but again, this meeting's not to talk about assessments. That property does get benefit. He has a large portion of tile on his property, approximately 440 meters of 18-inch. So there is a benefit. He does get better control of surface and subsurface drainage. But regarding his assessment, I don't feel that it's appropriate to discuss that, because unless we want to go into that further.
No,
That's for the order revision.
No, I agree, Brandon. I think the purpose of tonight's meeting is to talk about the technical aspects of it and the engineering aspects of it. And if there are concerns of assessment, there's other parameters that can investigate that under the Drainage Act. Andrew, I don't know if Andrew's with us tonight or not, but he certainly can step in if you'd like to address that any further. But the chair would like to look at the technical aspects of it tonight. And those discussions of assessment can be addressed down the road. Council, we'll, in the matter of procedure, if I don't see any hands, following Mr. Whitner's report, the opportunity for questions from any affected property owners who are present virtually can occur at this time.
I have a question, though.
Yes, okay. Yeah, before we do, I see you in the dark there, Councillor Cal, go ahead. Yep.
Sorry, I wrote it down. If he did not want drainage on his property anymore, would that be a possibility? Could he choose to abandon the drain on his property? And I understand he's in the middle of the drain, so it would make things very difficult. And I just was wondering if that was an option.
I'll let Brandon answer that, or Andrew, would you take a shot at that, perhaps as our drainage supervisor in terms of regulations? Brandon, could you cut in here, or Andrew cut in here and give Brandon a bit of a rest here?
Yes. Generally, in this circumstance, No, if he was to choose to submit a request to abandon the drain, it would not go over very well with the rest of the watershed upstream from him. That is probably not a feasible option. And as far as moving the drain, I know that it would be somewhat speculative, but and also to do with assessment. The hypothetical situation, if that was to happen, he would be awarded a very large special benefit if it was to be moved off of his property.
Okay. Brandon, do you want to cut in here, or you think we've addressed that ample?
You know, this is an existing drain. It was constructed in 1980. And, you know, that is where the water flows, and there's been no request to alter that. You know, it's the cheapest route is to go the route we're going. It's hard to abandon drainage when, you know, you're the low. There's upstream lands from Richards, Marsh, Carruthers, and Brenner, and they all run through that location. This drain's been there for 40 years. Maintenance has been done to it in the last 5 years. You know, I see no reason to alter that. And his request would, you know, there's some conditions that have to be met to abandon a drain. And I can tell you that he would need many more owners on the drain to sign on as well. And I don't see that happening. There's been requests from 2 owners on this project, Bryan Air Farms and Jay Richards, as well as the municipality, to construct this drain. I don't see it being abandoned.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. We have some hands up from council. Deputy Mayor Wilkins first, followed by Councillor McGill.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. I was just going to say that Mr. Nickel couldn't carry that petition through for closing that drain off on his property, but thank you, Brandon, you did it for me. Mayor Mayhew, I believe that public are supposed to speak before council.
Yes, they are. Yep. And okay. Questions from any affected property owners who are present virtually? That has been requested. Are there any to speak? That's the second time I've requested that. Yeah.
Hello, this is Miller Nickel.
Yes, Miller, how are you?
Good. I don't see my picture on here, so I'm.
Yeah, no, I don't either, but I can hear you very well, Miller. So you got good communication.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm new to Zoom, or fairly new to Zoom, so I don't have the video going. Anyways, Mayor, I'm not sure if your worship is the right term, and council.
No, Mayor Al, that's all you need.
Okay. And council, thanks for the opportunity to speak to this matter in front of you guys. I had shared some information to council separately, privately, and I just wanted to touch base on a couple of items. This is where I normally look around the room and make sure nobody's snoozing. It's a little hard to do that here, so I tell a joke, bring everybody online. But anyways, to the matter at point. There's been some discussion about assessment or how much I'm responsible for, the costs of that. I guess I really wanted to try to deal with that here because I'm fearful that if we go to this court of appeal, that I'm already put behind the 8 ball because now I'm in a defensive position. A bylaw has already been voted on twice, and then I'm left to defend myself at that point. My concern with the allocation or the amount that I've been assessed is just by definition. And I didn't see the definition in writing until I got this report earlier this month. There was about 4 or 5 criteria. I don't think the criteria that Brandon brought up here that is in play the most, it seems to be surface and subsurface water. So the surface water on my property all finds its way, if it's near the house, it finds its way into the well. If it's on the house, it finds its way into catch basins into the well. If it's on the ground, it finds its way to a dug ditch, which travels from one side of the property and spills into the Eichenberger drain as an open ditch on the Eichenberger property. So that drain is usually full of water. Not full, it usually has water in it. I've never seen it full in the 20 years that I've lived here. Never overflows on my property. So surface water I don't have any catch basins on this Switzer drain that crosses my property, so surface water isn't managed by that drain, in my opinion. And subsurface water, I don't have any tiling. I don't plan on having any tiling. I don't have any catch basins. The only thing that this drain can do on my property is create a sinkhole. So that's, when I look at the definition in black and white on paper here for benefits, to me, I just don't think they exist. So my argument about the allocation to me from a benefit perspective is that it's an error in this document. It should not be on this document. That's sort of the main crux of it. Further to that, I see that farmers, which I fully support, I'm in an agricultural area, I get it. They want to improve their crops. They want to improve their yield. They want to make more money. And they want to do that as they pass their farms down to their offspring in the future. Because I think a couple of my farmers are in succession plan mode, and they're probably looking at that. So if I was to do the same thing for me, I look at my woodlot. I look at what I was able to harvest out of my woodlot around 2012, 2011, I think it was. If you manage your woodlot and you selectively cut, you can repeat that process about every 8 years. I sent around a quick spreadsheet to the councillors. I think you'll see that I roughly took off about $42,000, 2011, I think it was 2011. Then in 2015, as we learned, the municipality came through and cut a big swath through my woodlot. Not in a very responsible way, in my opinion, but that's a different matter. There were many trees that were grown trees, live standing, that were just pushed over and split for 20 feet, so they were useless for logs. So anyways, you can see that I projected a cost per acre, or a revenue number per acre per year that I would lose every time I go to harvest. I projected a number of how much time I spend cutting grass out there, going out, clearing fall and limbs and stuff like that. And also I should note that a tall growth woodlot, in the middle of the woodlot, trees self-prune because they all fight to get to the top of the canopy. Lower branches die off, fall off. It's got a really nice log. When you get to the edge of the woodlot, trees don't self-prune. Branches reach out to the side because they've got this open space to reach out into. All of a sudden, those logs are less viable because they've got a lot of knots in them. Unless you go and cut the branches and stuff like that, it's loss of production. So for me, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, this drain is costing me more than $1,000 a year just to have it on my property. So monetarily, there's no benefit. There's a cost. I'm never going to get more yield out of it. I'm never going to have a business model that will pay for it. And the benefits are completely to the neighboring farmers. So I'll probably make those arguments if it gets to a court of, sorry, what was the acronym? Court of Appeals or Court of, but
yes.
my fear about my fear about that process is it is by its nature puts me on the defensive. And I just don't think that's fair. I'm just looking to be treated fairly and reasonably. So that's all. When it comes to the assessment part, technically, looking at the map recently, there's a couple of items. First of all, technically, this drain is working properly, so there's no rush to fix this. There's no rush to do this work because it's working properly. That was stated in the report. The other thing I picked up on the report is there's a portion of the drain that they're proposing to close and abandon. But I've got sinkholes on my property from that drain. So I assume that in the report, they're going to remedy the drain, put it into a natural state or at least a safe state before they abandon it. I don't know whether that was picked up in the report. And then lastly, looking at this drain, and I went out there this afternoon when I got home from work while I still had daylight, and I stood in the open Eichenberger ditch drain at the bottom with my boots and looked at the tiles coming towards me. I could see my open ditch, which if you've got the map in front of you, it creates a little segment on the edge of my property that I've got 33 1/3 acres. That's my 3rd acre because obviously historically when that open ditch was dug on my property, they decided it made no sense for it to be on the farmer's property behind me. So I can see that. I can see a large drain running out over the farmer's property behind me. I think it's Turner. And then I can see the end of this drain also running over the farmer's property behind me and then entering my property about 60 meters later, maybe 50 meters later. So I think I have a problem technically with the way the drain is shown on the map, and that none of it's shown on the Turner property behind me. I think if you go there and you survey it, you'll see obviously that there's a portion of it going across the Turner property. When they came and cleared this drain or did the maintenance over the drain, they put flags down and they went across the Turner property, locating it. And then when I did look closer at this map, after considering all this, I think it really shows my dug ditch. I don't even think it shows the drain, because when they came and located the drain, I now have questions about whether it's even located properly, because there was a small clearing parallel to my open ditch that was historically here on the property. And I always assumed that's where the drain ran. So technically, I just think there's issues with where the drain's located on the plan. I have questions, I guess, about what's happening with the abandoned section and whether it's going to be left in good repair. And I'm wondering, because of the location on the map, are we missing some assessment for the neighbor behind me, Turner? So those are my things. I guess I would ask council to consider deferring this report or sending it back for modifications if you feel that the benefits are applied to me in error, or at least having them address these couple of technical items that I've pointed out.
Thank you, Mr. Nickel. You certainly prepared yourself well. There is a process that we have to follow, and it is the quarter revision. That's where assessment can be considered. And I can certainly invite Brandon to speak about this now, but there is a process that we have to follow. And as a ratepayer of Southwest Middlesex, we want to make sure that you are treated as all other ratepayers are, in a fair and equitable manner, without changing the process for one particular person. There are other people that I believe want to speak. And Brandon, there is in this section of our procedural, I understand there's a Rick McCracken that has registered to speak. Is that correct, Jill?
So it appears as though he was on here. He's just dropped off. So I don't know if that was accidentally or on purpose. If he comes back, we will certainly let you know.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill. Brandon, while we're waiting for Mr. McCracken to come back on, he may be hearing us. Is there anything you would like to address with the conversation that has commenced in the last few minutes?
Oh, I can address some of them. So as for, the first one, drain location, 2015, there was some maintenance done on this project. It was clearing of the right of way through that property, Mr. Nichols. I understand they located the tile and they cleared the right of way. So the part that's cleared is shown. When you come down to the Turner property, we go by the previous report. So on the previous report, it was on the Nickel property. We would assume it was constructed that way because it is under a bylaw. So, I'm not here to, it's hard for me to dispute that because yes, the property lines aren't laid out. And property line issues are tough to deal with through municipal drains. But historically, the drain was on his property. And, with regard to benefits, and I understand he is a woodlot. Now, when you start talking about the trees and the pruning of the trees, historically, those trees aren't there. This drain was cleared in 1980, and it should stay clear. That right of way has already been purchased. That's why we're not purchasing it again. So the right of way should be there to begin with. The fact that trees grew up over the last 40 years, that's unfortunate, but we can't keep rehashing that when it exists today. As for the need for this project, yes, the drain is functioning. This drain was issued in May. Since May, the Richards farm has been subsurface drained. So it has now been drained to the proposed depths of this proposed drain, and it is sitting there waiting for an outlet. It does not have an outlet through the marsh property. Historically, this municipal drain ended on the north side of Switzer Drive. So he is now subsurface drained his farm, and we have enlarged his area and accounted for that in this report. So he can bring out those holes that is in that farm this direction. So there is a need. Because come springtime, that water has nowhere to go. So either it's going to blow out in the marsh property, which happens to be, a field or a hay field. So it, probably won't cause any damage there, but, there is a need for it because come spring, he's going to have a hard time planting that field with all the tile running nowhere. With regard to, I guess, the benefit, it's hard for me to speak to that because it's not the quarter revision, but I can tell you historically, there's been a large benefit charged to this property. He paid in 1980, approximately 1/3 of branch A. So, that's kind of what we look at. And, we have reduced him further. And I have looked at other reports we've submitted recently. And I've also discussed it, with senior engineers in our firm. And, we feel that his benefit is fair. But again, that's should be discussed at the quarter revision, and all the other owners, they should also have a chance to speak regarding that. And that's not what the meeting's here tonight. The meeting is to consider the design. There's an 18-inch tile proposed through there. I know he's concerned about the existing drain. Typically, we destroy the existing drain when we put in the new one. We usually run up it. If Mr. Nickel feels that it's in decent repair and he would like to keep it, then we can move the drain to one side and run beside it. But most likely, we will just run up it and then it is gone. He doesn't have to deal with it again. That's what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. And Brandon, just one other question. You were saying on Mr. Nichols' property, there was 440 meters of tile. Is that correct?
Yes, it's 438 meters.
Okay, 438, eh? Okay. All right. And the quarter revision council will discuss assessment of the property owners. Is Mr. McCracken with us, council? We'll ask Jill if there's been any appearance of him.
Yes, he is.
Oh, that's good. Mr. McCracken, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Rick, make yourself at home, and we're delighted to hear from you and your opinions on this drain, and go ahead. Take your time.
Yes, I would just like to speak in favor of the drain. We've had some concerns on our property with the last few years with the drain not working properly and the water not getting away, specifically in a couple of spots. One of them along the Nickel property by some trees that are there. And the other one would be by the road, by the catch basin that's more towards the east side of our property. There's a low spot there and there's some water collects there, and we've had trouble getting that drained away. The thing that really tipped this over for us was when Jonathan Richards wanted to drain his property, and the contractor that was draining the property realized that there was some 9 acres that should have gone down this branch A that was never assessed into it. The original report back from 1980 assessed that property at 14 acres, and the current report, I think, has it assessed at another 9 acres, or a total of 23. So if you were to put those additional 9 acres, which Jonathan has already done down this drain when it's really not working as well as I would like to see it, and you add another 9 acres down that drain, it would just compromise the drain even further and make the drainage issues that we have on our property more of a concern. So I just wanted to speak in favor of the drain, and I would encourage council to proceed with the report. That's all I have to say, unless there's some questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. Mr. McCracken, are you under the title of Bernier Farms Incorporated, are you?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thanks very much.
Yes, I'm one of the shareholders, one of 3.
Okay, thank you. Jill, any other property owners that wish to speak to this drain on record, Jill?
No, we've had no one else register.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll move on in the order of procedure.
I would just note, I do see a little hands up sign beside Miller Nickel again, so.
Okay, yes, I cannot see that on my screen, Jill. I appreciate you advising me of that. Mr. Nickel, do you have your hand, up, Mr. Nickel? Go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I do, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate again, I'm not against the drain. I understand the struggles, the benefits that my neighbors want to have resolved. My concern is, again, technically, when they start unearthing this drain and then they find out that it runs onto C. Turner's property, what recourse is there then? Do we have to, and then the portion of the drain that I talked about that's being abandoned, that's not the main line. I'm not worried about the main line. It's the report talks to abandoning an unused or a closed section of the drain that goes through the south and east corner of my property. And that's the one that's washing out. If you go to survey that and you try to walk that drain, you're going to break your ankle because you'll fall into about a 3-foot hole. So that was I just wanted to revisit that specifically about the closed drain and about what happens when they discover the drain isn't as shown on the map.
Okay, thank you again. The with no other requests from those questions from property owners, we'll go on to the third item of procedure: requests from those present virtually to add or remove their names from this petition. Are there any? And failing which, we move on to the fourth, and I'm sure there'll be some hands up, comments, or questions from members of council. Council, it's your turn. Any hands? Yes, Councillor Cowell, I see you there. Go ahead.
If Mr. Nickel is able to get his property registered as an agricultural property, what portion would he be able to qualify for grant potentially? And what portion would that be? Or what might the grant be?
I think it would be Andrew. Well, I think we'll direct that question to Andrew as our drainage superintendent.
Yes, I can speak to that. I have seen it where people have gone through the process to get the ag class tax rate, and typically, as long as they can provide evidence or proof that they have done that, then we will assign the grant to them. And I have never seen an issue where it's been rejected. But I would like to reiterate that it is a matter of the OMAFRA may issue a grant. It's not a shall.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that. So with regarding grant, the grant is based on when OMAFRA receives the grant form, they check each property. So, realistically, if this project were to proceed, it would be constructed next summer. It would then be billed out in 2022. That's when the grant form would be submitted. That's when OMAFRA would check to see if there is grant or ag status on those properties. And that's the time that matters. So in the past in this municipality, we did a drain a couple of years ago. It was called the Booker Drain. It was on Falconbridge Drive by an orchard there. There was a landowner there who had a small agricultural property, I believe 10 acres. When we issued the report, he did not have ag status. He then since learned and corrected it because it makes a big difference on his MPAC property taxes as well. And he did receive grant. So, you know, that is, that's how it is done. When you look at our report, the grant page is always independent of the report. It's not part of the report because grant may or may not happen. You know, currently, yes, it happens all the time, but the province any day could just remove it. That's why it says may be applicable. But he's not the only one that doesn't receive grant. There's a marsh property, which is, I'll be honest, it's a 200-acre farm. They currently don't receive grants either. It's not ag status. Obviously, there's been you know, some miscommunication when they do their taxes, but you know, they are being assessed approximately $12,000, and they would be reduced approximately $4,000. The grant is 1/3, so in Mr. Nichols' case, it would work out to be about $6,100.
Okay. So obviously, the benefits of an accountant and due diligence of business protocols might be in order too.
Can I ask a question, Alan?
Yep, go ahead. It's a little out of procedure, but by all means, Greg, we know that you're involved in the subject, so go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, I just said you know, and it's nobody's fault. I think that you can withdraw your name from a Section 4, but I don't think you can withdraw your name from a 78. And Andrew can make a comment on that, and Brandon. That would be my first thing I would ask them to comment on. And secondly, if both of them could sort of outline the process for council on moving forward, as well as what they were required to do at tonight's meeting. Is that possible, Andrew?
Yes, just as you said, it is not a petition under Section 4, and so it is not a matter of withdrawing a petition. Under Section 4, if someone withdraws their petition, depending on how far along it goes, it is potential that the project will stop, or they will no longer be a part of the drain. But because this is Section 78, it doesn't mean that they will be taken off of the drain. As Brandon said, it is an established drain. There is no precedent to withdraw.
Can I chime in there, Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Go ahead, Brandon.
This drain is being constructed under both sections. So Mr. Richards is a Section 4, and the road is also a Section 4. The only Section 78 request is from Rick and Brentnere Farms. John Richards wanted the drain extended because it currently doesn't go through the marsh property. And with the road, they extended it up to the road crossing.
All right, Council, we're still on that fourth item of protocol, comments or questions from members of council. Councillor Vink, I see your hand up. Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Brandon, Miller Nickel mentioned that part of the drain he feels is on the Turner property. Will you be looking into that before the court of revision?
Brandon, the question has been directed to you. Could you answer, Councillor Vink?
I can look at it, and we can, you know, I can go out there and look at it. It's hard for me to determine exactly where the property line is. You know, we are not land surveyors, but I can take a look at it. Historically, you know, based on the schedule I received, it's from 1980. It was constructed on his property. He received the allowances for that. That should be noted. So, you know, that's where the easement is currently for the bylaw. So, no, I can look at that. I don't think the court of revision is currently even booked, so we have lots of time, and we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Last call, council, for questions. Are there any more? Seeing none, we move on to the last item of agenda, and please bear in mind that the Drainage Act is a very old act. It has a protocol to follow. There will be a court of revision, and some of these issues of concern can be addressed there. At this point, we require a decision if first, second reading of the bylaw is required. The motion would read that council accept the engineer's report in reference to the Eichenberger Municipal Drain, branches A and C, and refers the bylaw to the bylaws section of the agenda for first and second reading only. Council, is there any motion? Deputy Mayor, will you move that?
I'm going to remind council again that the only thing we can do tonight with this report is we can turn it back or we can accept it. So I will make the motion to accept it.
Okay, thanks very much, Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Crothers, I see your hand. Council, any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thank you, Brandon, very much for your service.
Oh, thank you. Guys, have a nice evening.
Good, thank you.
Hi, Brandon.
Thank you, Andrew and Greg. If you're still with us, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Nicol and Mr. McCracken. Thank you very much. Item number 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'll read them through, council. If there's any of these items that you wish taken out, I'll look up after each one and I'll observe your hand. First, A, Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority Draft Budget 2021. Item number B, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority Meeting Highlights, September 17th, 2020. County of Wellington Aggregate Resource Property Valuations Report Resolution. Yes, Councillor Cow.
I would like us to support this resolution that's going around. They are dealing with an issue where aggregate properties that are actively being used and we'll say mined from, for a lack of better words, are taxed at a rate lower than residential. These properties are borderline industrial, and there's a lot of expense associated with the trucks that run down those roads. And I think we deal with similar issues out here where sometimes we don't quite have aggregates, but we're not always collecting the taxes from the places that are costing us the most. So I'd like to make the motion that we support this resolution.
Okay, the Councillor Cal has moved support of the consent correspondence C from the County of Wellington regarding aggregate resource property valuation. Is there a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Wilkins has seconded the motion. Council, is there discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question for the support of the resolution. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Councillor Cow. Item number D, Township of Oro-Mondonte Ski Resort Resolution Support. Then council, the council for the municipality of Southwest Middlesex received the consent agenda items 5 through 5D. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Cowell, seconded by Councillor Scholdice. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Jill, we're on item number 6, Committee of Adjustment. Seeing none. Item number 7, public meetings. None. Staff report. Fire. None. And item B, administration. Jill, if you could walk us through the metal roof pricing and of the child care center, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. So thank you very much, Mayor. We got this to you today, but so I apologize for that. There were a few pieces of it. I was picking the brains of some other folks to make sure I was attempting to answer as many questions as I could. in pulling the report together. So I might just pull that up right now. You'll remember that back in the middle of July, when council had the presentation from Cornerstone about contraction for the work of building the new daycare, there was a request from members of council, and council supported this to get pricing on a metal roof instead of shingles, as what went out to the market. So the Brunenco did go out to the market. They got prices. They went out to a number of different local suppliers as well. They were names that we had.
He's on the screen showing the report.
Okay,
Yep, go ahead
Carry
there. I'm
on.
sorry, Jill, about that. Yeah.
that's fine. So the product that was opted for by the architect was a product called Elite by Vic West, which, as I said in the report, is a 28 gauge steel. It's installed direct to the roof deck with 16-inch spacing between the ribs. The construction requirement that went to the market also said that for designing a steel roof, you're going to need to be able to provide the snow restraint system and the ice and water shield, and eaves trough and downspouts as well. So that went to the market. There were only a few people that responded: McNaughton's, AM Roofing, and Courtney Roofing. McNaughton's provided the total package and is the cheapest price for the total package. Courtney Roofing excluded in their response the fascia, eaves, downspouts that were required. So the original specifications, as I noted, was for asphalt shingles, with the cost of the shingles alone at just over $20,000 plus HST. And the shingle type was or is Cambridge by ICO. And then the siding, soffit, fascia, downspouts, eaves, trough, etc., was going to be separate. And I only have an approximate cost for that, which is approximately $11,000 plus HST. So in terms of the request, I know that there's many council members who have some familiarity with the benefits of metal roofs. Some of the biggest benefits are that it's a sustainable resource and that it's something that is recycled often and then can be recycled again. And it has a very long life cycle and is more energy efficient, particularly in the summer, because it reduces the glare. Then there's greater resistance to fire and other weather, and just has higher ratings for many features. There are some cons to it though as well. If you move to a thinner variety, it can be dented. There can be need for painting a metal roof on occasion, and if it's not done properly, the efficiency won't be as high. With respect to an asphalt roof, the asphalt shingles, it's the most affordable material to install for a roof, and it's got low labor costs. The cons on this side, it's not as energy efficient because it does absorb a lot of heat in the summer. It typically ends up in landfills, as it's not easy to recycle and can contain some pretty toxic materials. It's less durable than metal, can be heavier, which can at times be a benefit. But it is more vulnerable to weather and climate, can grow some things on it that you don't want, and can also incur damage from weather and the UV rays. And the life expectancy is, I've got 15 to 30 years. That's just in general. Both Cornerstone and Brunenco noted that the shingles are a good quality shingle, but their experience is that most shingled roofs only last between 12 and 20 years, and that many metal roofs will last 2 to 3 times that and may not require replacement for up to 40 to 70 years. So as a result, a metal roof can have a lower life cycle cost and are more sustainable, and are less prone to leaking and just generally more energy efficient. So they just reflected some of the things that already noted as well. So the price difference. So sorry if this is confusing for anyone. The cost difference is the difference for this particular change order would be the cost difference between just the shingles, which was $20,390, and the cost of the steel roof and eaves, troughs, etc., that go into the steel roof. So the $77,223 is what McNaughton's had provided. The difference between those two in terms of a change order would be $56,833. And then there is a 5% fee for the work to be completed, bringing that to $59,674.65. And I just want to remind you, so I don't have this spelled out in terms of a change order because it was going to be done separately. But the cost of the eaves and downspouts, etc., fascia soffits, was not included in the original cost from Courtney's to Brunenko. So that $20,000 is just the shingles. So there would be additional savings of around over $10,000 that would be credited towards the overall project. So the difference then is closer to 48,000 when you're trying to do as much comparison of apples to apples. Just a couple points there that I've already touched on in terms of the environmental impact and implication of being a more energy efficient and a better product that is reused, and that in terms of an asset management, it is expected to be less cost for this brand new facility that council is building. Moving forward, it's less of an asset management draw when if you were to consider putting a metal roof on. So that's it for my report.
Mute. You're muted. You're muted.
Ellen, we can't hear you, Ellen.
Thank you, Jill. You got that together in a short order of time, and that's a lot of information. I know you probably were working on that this morning, but thank you again. Councillor Crothers, did you have your hand up?
Yes, well, I was mentioning you were muted, but no, I do have a comment on page 2, the chart with the pros and cons for metal versus or the metal roof. The one notation said painting a metal roof is an ongoing maintenance cost. What happened in the probably late 70s, early 80s, they had basically faulty paint on steel. I ran into that on projects that I did, and the paint faded away prematurely. They corrected that somewhere in the early 80s. I have a roof on my big shop that was put in about 1985, and it looks like brand new yet. Roof that I put on about 1980, I had to paint it a couple of years ago because the paint faded. So unless they've changed something, I don't see that as an issue. It's going to be a long, long time down the road before you need to paint it, if that, as long as they've corrected it. Just to kind of clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Schulnice, I see your hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I drove by the daycare earlier today, and the roof is sheeted and ready to go, waiting for roofing material. This motion was made back in the middle of July looking for these prices. Is there a reason we are just receiving this now?
I can answer that.
Yes, by all means, Jill, go ahead. I know that
It's 20 hours.
the former recreation director asked for some of these names, which I gave him at the time, I realize. So the information was forwarded, but Jill, I'll let you speak on behalf of the staff. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you. So Renenco did go out to the market to receive prices. That takes a little while to gather. That whole process just takes a little while even for them to get that information back and give people a reasonable amount of time to respond to the request. I got a response from them with the information back in September the 29th. And we met to discuss it in October. So my apologies for it being November. Just how the timing goes sometimes, unfortunately.
Okay, no, it goes fast, but I think we did the best we could. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Cal, go ahead.
Our board of directors with Elm has, they would like to see a metal roof on the building. Not too many years ago, I think it was last year or the year before, they opted to put a metal roof on their own building, and some of it was the idea of longevity. They don't want to have to be doing this. As much as the kids loved all the adventure of having the workers there and the scissor lift there, it was Mr. Lawton who'd done the job at the time, and I was disappointed to see he chose not to bid on this because he has been such an integral part of the Elm. It would have been nice to see him be part of this as well, but he made the suggestion to us when it was coming out of our own money that it should be a metal roof because it will last a lifetime of one of those little people. So, and our board would like to see it. I know that isn't, a be all and end all, but they asked me to send it along that they would like to see metal on the buildings. So I'm sending along their message and their requests.
Thank you, Councillor Cal. I'll take Councillor Bartlett's question first, followed by Councillor Crothers.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted clarification. The estimate for $11,000 plus HST, that was just for the downspouts and the fascia?
Yeah, so that's the eaves and downspout and fascia soffits that would have gone along with the shingle roof.
Okay, and it mentions that the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing accessories supplied by others. So is that an additional cost?
That's who would have been supplying those materials.
Okay, so it's all the same. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Yes, just another comment. We have a difference of roughly $48,000 at the rate of roughly $20,000 at this point in time, just to install the shingles only, material and labor, I would assume. Giving their numbers, which I agree with, probably 15 to 20 years, you would be replacing that. Chances are at that time to replace the roof, that's total strip, tear down, removal, disposal. You probably wouldn't be too far off of the difference in price now to replace it in that time span. So you'd be up pretty much that much to replace the roof once, where this roof would probably last again for tens and tens of years farther. It's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor McGill, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just a couple points. Another plus towards the steel and not using asphalt shingles is if you put on asphalt shingles this time of year, sometimes they blow off. I've heard of people doing it again and then even having to do it a third time in the spring because they won't seal down unless you put them on when there's hot weather. So the tire on the back of them will stick down. And I don't know who would be liable or responsible if we put on asphalt shingles and they blew off, whether that would be the contractor's problem or our problem or insurance problem, I don't know. And also I wondered how quickly can this steel be sourced? I know I've ordered sheets of steel in the past and usually you can get them within a week. And kind of like Councillor Scholdeis said, we probably really should have dealt with this, before now, but I'm glad it's on the agenda tonight. And, oh, I did look at the product, Elite by Vic West. It's a little fancier than just an agricultural profile. So it'll look better than the agricultural profiles that are cheaper, but that a lot of people will put on houses. Yeah, so it'll look better. Probably a little more, it would be more expensive because of that, but, and I like it because it doesn't have any horizontal joints. It comes in sheets. There's all vertical joints. Some of the fancier steel type shingles might actually cost more money, but I think down the road, they could actually not be as reliable as this product.
Thanks, Mark. You've done some research there. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cal, I see your hand up again. Go ahead.
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Okay. Ooh, someone's playing music here.
I got a phone call.
Okay. Councillor Crothers has seconded the motion. Thank you very much, Ian. Council, last call for discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Motion's carried.
Mayor
yeah.
Mayhew, I'll only add that I believe they're ready for us with steel. So
Oh, yes, Jill, you had mentioned that to me earlier, and thank you very much. I know you've put a lot of work in that inquiry, and you made sure that our bases were covered with regards to the supply, the inventory of it. And McNaughtons have the quote. Yes, Councillor McGill, go ahead.
Just one more question. I just wondered in future with a report like this, like I really didn't think it should come from the CAO, but would it come from when we do get a supervisor for the facilities and rec department? Would it come from a report like this come from that supervisor, or would it maybe come from Greg as director of operations? I thought it should have been delegated to somebody else.
Well, Jill, at this point in time, Jill's been wearing more than one hat. So I would, if Steve was still there, it would have been from him. Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the future, it may come, I'm sure it'll come from the director of operations. But as I say, Jill's had a couple of hats to wear between the transition.
Yeah, I think we all
Go
have.
ahead, Jill.
We've all been wearing multiple hats. So
Yeah, I know.
we're taking our turns. And all I can say is I don't want another hat to be a fire chief. I don't want to be the fire chief.
Okay, no, well, I know you wear a couple, but I see your concern, Councillor McGill, and I'm sure in the future you'll, if I don't think you and I will be here to see another steel roof go on that childcare center, Mark. That'll last longer than that.
We'll never make it.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, Ian, for your input there. I know you did your research as well. Item 8C, building. It's none. Jill, you step in, Jill, if I'm in error here. Item D, finance, none. Item E, facilities and recreation, none.
Did you vote on the last one?
Yes, we did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Notice of motion. Councillor Crothers, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a motion to, at minimum, bi-yearly at the minimum, have rust control oil coating applied to all municipal vehicles and relevant equipment by a qualified contractor as deemed necessary. Also, as information, this can be done, weather permitting, on a gravel, not paved open area of the municipality's choosing and can be organized as per requirements of the contractor. Basically, what I'm suggesting is all vehicles, motor vehicles or road vehicles, whatever, and relevant equipment, which a lot of people do, trailers, maybe your other construction equipment, whatever's deemed necessary. Basically, what it amounts to is, I see by the vouchers, it looks like the maintenance programs are pretty good on equipment. on the running gear, basically, oil changes, whatever. I'm suggesting maintenance on the actual structure of the equipment, the body, the frames, steel lines, brake lines, hoses, and everything. That's the reason for it. So that's the motion anyway, to oil spray the equipment.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion made. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Scholdice, I see your hand up. Council, any discussion with regards to this motion?
I would have a comment, Alan, when it would be
Yes, I
appropriate.
will. I just, yeah, I'll take Deputy Mayor Wilkins' question. I saw her hand go right up as soon as I asked that. So Deputy Mayor, go ahead, please.
No, take Greg first. That's fine.
Okay, Greg, go ahead.
Well, I just, through you, Mayor Allen, and through to Councillor Crothers, since this was raised, we have, Rob is gathering information. One on the types of products that are out there and the cost associated with performing this on all our equipment at this particular point. So I have no issue in presenting that information back to council, because I would like to find out how much it's going to cost us, and the product, the product itself needs to be something that not in the environment, etc. So Rob is working on talking with a whole number of different suppliers at a particular point. We are looking at all the pieces of equipment as they're suggested, including graders, backhoes, and that thing. The other thing to consider is that there's our newer stuff has different. We have aluminum bodies in some of our stuff, so that is going to come into. But if the price to do this, like when I went back and looked at a little bit of the history, this was done before this council, and then the previous council to this one squashed it. They basically said, no, we don't want to do it anymore, and so it's being raised again. And yeah, I think we can look into moving forward with this, but I would like some pricing to make sure that we can afford it. And if we can't afford it in one budget year, then maybe we get into doing half the units one year and half the units the next, etc. So just want to make sure we're using the right product, and that we get to talk to the people that are running this market right now out there. So there's a lot of non-stick materials that are out there. There is some drip products that are out there. So I have no issue in reporting back to council on what we found out, if that's what the motion is. So
I agree, Greg. I think if it came back in the way, it's a good idea, a good subject for discussion, I should say, and it has its merits. There's no question. But coming back as a report to council will give us a more wholesome attack on this question. One, if you're spraying biannually, you could do half the fleet one year and half the fleet the next year, and just have it repetitive like that. So every second year, half the fleet is being done. That would amortize the cost over 2 taxation years instead of 1, which might be beneficial. And secondly, we don't want anything that's carcinogenic or for a health and safety standpoint. We want to make sure that the material is safe. It has merit, and it would just take a modest change in the motion, adjustment in the motion of Councillor Crothers regarding the subject, and that a report come back. Ian, I saw your hand up.
Deputy Mayor Wilkins had a question, I believe.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're correct. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, and thank you, Mayor Mayhew, and thank you, Councillor Crothers. I was just going to suggest that this just come back in the form of a report. I think that by putting at a minimum of bi-yearly, it's restrictive. So that may be the route we take, Councillor Crothers. I have no idea, but I'd like to see a report come back from staff first. So if you're prepared to make an amendment to that, I would support it. I will also comment that Greg is absolutely right. When we amalgamated, the first public works manager did undertake a annual or biannual undercoating program That went on for, I believe, 2 terms of council, maybe 3. And I'm not sure why we did discontinue it, but yes, at some point it was discontinued. Just a little bit of history.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Yes, a couple of comments. One thing relating to what Deputy Mayor said about doing it before. If you look at the gray GM pickup that Jimmy McEachern drives, that I believe was prior to the gray Ford pickup we have now on rec, that thing looks about as good as it came off the line. Like, it's in good shape, and that's probably why, to help preserve it. I also have some names, if you're interested, of area municipalities that use the service of the one contractor that I actually just had both my vehicles done. If you like, I can give them to you an hour later. It doesn't matter. But this is municipalities, and they could probably tell you what their experience is. I can give you that till later if you like.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Crothers. Yeah, that can be between you and Greg, Ian, and you can discuss that later. Councillor Crothers, if we could put a report come back to council regarding the minimum bi-yearly have a rust control coating. Your motion, but can we precursor that as a report to come to council?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Councillor Scholdice, will you continue to second that motion?
Good.
Okay. Thanks very much, Mike. Any Jill? Any questions? Yes, Jill.
I just have a quick question. Would it be okay if the report is either during the budget deliberations? So if the information is collected, could staff report back during the budget discussions if all looks good? But if you want a separate standalone report, we can do that as well. Just wondering if we have options there.
Yeah,
fine with me. Yeah,
I have no objections with it coming before the budget discussions. We can slide it in there, Jill, and that way it's on our radar. And Greg can look after the timing himself. And whenever the information comes back, we'll be fine. Councillor Cal, did I see your hand up there? Yep, go ahead.
I just think that I'm sure it will provide a long-term benefit to vehicles. I've never oil sprayed my own vehicles, and it seemed like it's something that happened this year. I've not had the same rust issues, but I don't have a fleet. My concern is that with COVID, we already have a very tight budget this year. And in past years, we've pushed things off to keep our budget lines as tight as possible. So I'm not sure adding costs to our budget is one of the goals I have at this point in November. So I think for me, I don't think I'll support it, but I understand a report will come probably anyways. But that's one of my concerns is additional costs during the pandemic when we already have a budget that's so very tight.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Bartlett, go ahead.
I think thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Crothers answered my question, but is this something that we can do with our own staff, or does it have to be done through a contractor?
Not very well.
No.
I believe the discussion of the motion is with regards to a contractor.
Yeah.
The discussion and the motion has been indicating the use of a contractor. Ian, I'll get back to you. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Al. In the long term, it will be savings. Even when you resell the vehicle, it will be worth more money. So it's really not a cost in the long term.
Okay, Councillor Crothers, one more shot at it. Ian, go ahead.
Yes, just a comment. What would be required probably of the employees, the local employees, the public works people would be to properly wash down the equipment prior and let it dry. We did our trucks every year, and that's what we did. We'd spend quite a bit of time, make sure they're clean. And then when you oiled them, it got into everything. And I was driving trucks that were 30 years old, some of them, and they were still good. Thanks.
Okay. If we have options ahead too, we'll look at the pricing that comes back, and if in the event we can't do the whole fleet, we may be selective on what vehicles we can use.
Yeah,
So there are options open for
Oh, yeah.
administration there.
Yeah, there's flexibility.
Council, I'll call the question. Everyone's had a shot at this pretty well. All in favor of the report for the request of a report to come back on the stream of vehicles? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Item number 10, Jill, we're at 10.1, tile loan application. That a tile loan application 2020-02 is approved in the amount of $45,000. A recommendation before us. Does Andrew wish to speak to this, or Greg?
Mayor Mayhew, I'll move that.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Bartlett has seconded the motion. Council, discussion on this. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item number 10.2, planning fees. Tracy Ward and George Lockhart are requesting that the application costs to extend their temporary zoning at 1034 Longwoods Road be waived. The current temporary use zoning bylaw expires on November 27th. Council, Jill, is there a report on this? Would you like to report on it, or the information that came in, or is it pretty well self-explanatory? I believe this is a second request. I believe this person has had.
Technically,
I believe we
it's
did
the
this
third.
last year. Third, okay, all right.
The third request.
Okay, the
because
first was waived out of courtesy.
Yeah, so this is the third one. So there was an application that was submitted, it was approved, and then last year is where you dealt with the extension for it, and this is a request for another extension. So third temporary zoning bylaw.
Okay. Council, let's open it for discussion. I'll watch your hands. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Crothers, followed by Councillor Cowell.
Yeah, I'll move we accept the motion. They've had some really bad circumstances, like a lot of people have. So I'll make the motion.
Okay. Councillor Vink, question, are you seconding that?
Yes, I am, Mayor Allen.
Okay, thank you. We haven't had much time for discussion, Council. We'll ask again. Yes, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, was this a situation where they'd had a fire? I'm confused as to why it's taken so long to rebuild if we have now this will be giving them 3 years to build. But we will give them an extra year, so in total they'll have 3 years to build.
I'm not sure what the reasons are. They did have a fire. I understand it's taken them a while to get back on their feet, and I'm not sure if there's any ramifications from COVID-19 or not. Maybe some other councillors can speak to that, but whether there's been an employment problem or something, I'm not sure. There may be, but we don't discuss that publicly. And
I was just looking at what caused the initial reason to need to have a trailer on their property, because that's what we're discussing is the trailer, is my understanding. Yeah. And that question I'd like to direct through the worship to the clerk.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure, through you, your worship. So Councillor Cowell, you're correct. There was a fire on the property that they're rebuilding on the property, but in order to still have a place to stay, they requested that they have a trailer there temporarily while they're rebuilding. They've indicated they've run into some challenges. I think they indicated that last year as well. which is why they're requesting further extension. They've indicated that they plan to complete this in this year prior to this request, or such a bylaw being ending.
Yes, Councillor Cowell.
Just as a follow-up question
Yeah.
to
Yeah, go
Jill,
ahead.
do they have a building permit?
I can,
Everyone's froze up on me.
yeah. I can look into the building permit side of it if you would like, Councillor Cowell.
Sure,
Just
follow up
confirm
with
by
me.
email. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand they're living in the trailer. That's correct, Jill, is it? They're currently living in the trailer, and I don't believe the house is advanced to the stage of anytime soon of occupancy, I believe.
They're living in the trailer, yes.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Wilkins, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Is the home that caught fire, has it been demolished?
I think yes, it has been demolished. It was a write-off, and it has been demolished. I believe
Are you sure?
Yes, and the house on construction is there, and the trailer is behind it. Council, for your own information, you may be familiar with a person on Longwoods Road in the vicinity of this home that made the wheatgrass. You remember the wheatgrass place that used to be there? It used to freeze portions of harvested wheatgrass into an ice cube tray, and he sold those nationally and internationally. It was quite the business at one time. I believe this house is located directly to the east of the wheatgrass guy. Martin, is that correct?
Not quite. Dan Tolman used to do the wheatgrass. It's directly west, so I mean,
West.
it's within 100 yards. So
Yeah.
so that's yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was in that
And
vicinity.
actually, I think, actually, I believe part of the house that burned down is still up.
Is it? Okay. I'm wrong. Thank you, Martin, for clarifying that. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Wilkins, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I asked our CAO clerk if the house had been demolished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Jill, anything further you could report on that, or has it been all discussed?
I'll follow up. I'll just confirm with the CBO in terms of all of the status of both of those requests.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Council, I think everyone's had a shot at this. The motion has been made by Ian, I believe, and seconded by Councillor Vink. I'll call the question. All in favor of 1 more year extension?
It's waiving the fees.
Or the waiving
Waive the fee.
waiving the fee for 1 more year? Yeah, waiving the extension of fee. Okay, look at your hands here. I can see it. All opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Council number 11 is entitled Unfinished Business. I don't believe there is any, Jill.
Nope.
And item number 12 is new business. There have been no items moved to this, I believe. Just give a look around here. Item number 13, County Council and conference updates. There's nothing to report on County Council. We had a meeting regarding governance, redoing our governance issues. The 2 subjects that came up, Council, for your information, if I can remember off the cuff, of course, the problem with the numbers coming in terms of population and the number of ratepayers, impacts figures are always behind, and that does create some issues on the governance model of County Council. It would be great if Southwest Middlesex had 2 reps back on it. Again, our Deputy Mayor and myself, but unfortunately, the numbers aren't there yet, and MPAC do have some issues. That's part of the governance model that was discussed. Secondly, the Newberry question. That's always in the air. There's population thresholds on representation in county council, and it puts Newberry in a difficult position. So that was discussed. Enough of that. These discussions will go on for a while, but just to report on that and to keep you abreast of the discussions at the county level, I'll conclude that. Are there any other reports anyone has or updates? Announcements, item number 14, council. Are there any announcements or concerns? Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think, I'm not sure, it didn't count. It's either 4 or 5 bases for the new street lights on the main street. This would be south of the railroad tracks. They poured them today, so they're making some progress.
Okay, great. Councillor Cowell, go ahead. And Jill, your hand just went up after I had Councillor Cowell's name. I'll get you second. Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
I just wanted to say a special thank you to the mayor, the deputy mayor, Councillor McGill, and Councillor Vink for helping hand out treat bags at the municipal building. There were over, I ended up handing a few out as I was meeting up with my own family. So I think we ended up with over 60 bags handed out, and I was able to donate the rest of them to Christine Bertrand, who was very hastily putting bags together and handing them out to people on the main street across from the fire department. So it worked out because I didn't have over 40 bags of chips and other things come back to my house with the 3 bags of candy my children collected. So again, thank you. It was positively received.
Great. And Jill, go ahead there.
Well, I just have someone who's way too speedy working behind the scenes. So Kendra just sent me a little clip of information to show that there was a demolition permit issued, as well as the building permits associated with the new structure.
Thank you. Yeah,
For the,
Jill,
the previous property. So thanks,
yeah.
Kendra.
Yep, thank you very much. Yeah, Jill, you get things done very efficiently. I've experienced that on a daily basis. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Cowell, I had written down exactly what you just reiterated there, and the only person you left out was yourself. And again, thank you very much for setting that up.
I appreciated the opportunity to take my
no
children
problem.
trick-or-treating. So it was like
great.
win-win-win.
Bet the kids would love it. Yeah. Number 15, closed session. Council is not anticipated. We're at bylaws. Council,
First, second, and third, Mayor Mayhew.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Wilkin.
Sorry,
Councillor Crothers, are you seconding? Oh,
I'm just going to interrupt. Yeah, just
go ahead.
Just to say the second bylaw with respect to the Eichenberger would be first and second only, but that can be in the motion, just first and second for the other two, and first, second, and third for the.
Yeah, I was just going to get that, Jill, so that's great. Okay. Deputy Mayor, you have no problem with that? Councillor Crothers, are you going to second that, Ian?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
You see me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion is carried. Council, staff have taken the courtesy of giving you the dates on number 17 there, November 25th, 2 meetings, regular budget meeting at council, and again on the 2nd of December. And I just advise council again, if you're going over numbers at all or any emails and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to staff. You'll find them very accommodating with regards to budget discussions. Kristen and Jill or Greg will address your concerns well before the meeting if you have any. Number 18, I move that the meeting be adjourned at 8:35. Thank you, Council. Thank you very much, Jill, Kristen, Greg, Kendra. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.